The year is 1475, and London breathes cold river fog like a sick animal. Tallow smoke clings to your throat. The street under your boots is wet, slick, and alive with things that don't belong on skin. You came here expecting candlelit romance and timbered charm. Instead, you meet a city that sweats waste into its own drinking water and calls it ordinary. We'll use AI reconstructions to bring this world into focus. There are rules you don't get to negotiate. Hands are rarely clean. Linen is reused until it shines with grease. Straw mattresses drink damp and never give it back. A small scrape, so minor you don't notice it, can become the only doorway an infection needs. And in a London still battered by returning plague years, bodies are already running on thin margins. Hungry, stressed, short on sleep. So when intimacy leaves a microscopic tear, the city's grime doesn't just offend, it enters. Tonight, the danger won't announce itself with screams. It will arrive as heat under the skin, and it will not stop at the surface. You are shoulder-checked in a river lane and stumble into the gutter, and the splash on your shin is not just rainwater. It is warm, sour runoff that creeps into the stitching of your hose. The worry you carried out of the night doesn't fade. It tightens. A new risk follows immediately. Wherever your skin is already cracked from cold, the street has something ready to move in. Stay with this, and by dawn, you'll know why a private act in London can become a public sentence. You wipe your leg with your sleeve and only spread the filth. People step past you as if the ground is harmless, boots skimming over cabbage leaves and fish scales that glitter in lamplight. Smoke from cook fires hangs low in damp air. The Thames is close enough to hear, a slow slap against pilings, carrying barges and refuse with the same patient pull. You look for water, not comfort. A corner barrel offers cups from a ladle. The surface is cloudy, and the rim is tacky against your lip. You swallow anyway, because thirst has its own authority. The cold bite is brief. The aftertaste lingers. Behind a door that won't quite close, the city shows you how it handles what the body cannot keep. A chamber pot sits under a bench, its rim crusted, its contents dusted with ash like a thin apology. Someone lifts it with 2 fingers, arm extended, as if distance could keep the smell from clinging. It's carried out, tipped into the gutter, and the stream finds the nearest slope toward the river. Nobody flinches. This is the routine that keeps the street usable. A little farther on, a shared privy is nothing more than boards over a pit. You wait your turn with strangers, shoulders hunched against the wet cold, listening to the creak of wood and the soft, embarrassed coughs of people pretending they aren't here. The plank is slick beneath your palm when you steady yourself. There is no clean paper waiting, no running water to make you feel finished. People do what they can with scraps of cloth, with handfuls of straw, with whatever can be spared, and then they pull their garments back into place and step out as if dignity can be stitched shut. You tell yourself you'll avoid the worst of it. Then you enter a room where avoiding is impossible. The inn's stairs are slick from damp boots. Inside, air has been used too many times. Sweat, onions, wet straw. Timber walls feel close enough to lean. In the corner, a man coughs into his fist and stares at the fire, as if looking away could make it stop. The bed offered to you is not a clean place, so much as a negotiated space. Straw pushes through torn ticking. Wool blankets are heavy with moisture, matted from years of bodies and spilled drink. When you press a hand down, it gives with a damp sigh, and your palm comes up smelling faintly of mildew. You try to clean yourself the way the room expects you to. A basin sits near the hearth. The water is already film-sheened because many hands have visited it. You rub your fingers together, scraping grit from under your nails, and the water turns a faint gray. You wipe with a cloth that is damp before it touches you. You can feel how little it changes, like rubbing mud with more mud. Still, you keep doing it, because doing something feels safer than doing nothing. You lie down anyway, because fatigue doesn't ask permission. Your shoulders sink. Your jaw unclenches for a heartbeat. Then the itch starts. Small, wandering. Ankle, wrist, behind the knee. You slap once, twice, and it only seems to spread. Nearby, someone combs at their hairline with practiced fingers and flicks something into the rushes. In a city where cloth is washed rarely and dried slowly, tiny passengers learn the fastest routes. Intimacy here isn't wrapped in privacy. It happens where blankets are shared, where basins are reused, where a strip of linen can serve for wiping, wrapping, and cleaning until it is more stain than fabric. When bodies press close, friction can raise microscopic breaks in delicate skin. Nothing you would call an injury, but grime on fingers, damp in bedding, dirt trapped in seams. Each one is eager for any opening. A couple a few steps away tries to be careful in the only way they know. They pour water into a cracked basin, swish a cloth through it, and pass it back and forth, rinsing the same spots again and again until the water turns the color of weak tea. They whisper, laugh once, and believe they've done enough. Then they lie down, still a little damp, and pretend that means clean. When they finish, the cloth is hung on a peg to dry in air that never truly dries. Outside, the river fog beads on your lashes. For a moment you stand still, feet planted, breathing slowly, letting the cool plaster at your back remind you where your body ends. When you step into the lane again, the night has thickened. Lamplight turns to halos. A cart groans past, wheels chewing ruts, and the sharp stink of offal rolls after it, bound for tanners and boilers. You keep to the center to dodge the slickest edges, but every doorway leaks its own little stream. Every corner keeps its own heap. Tens of thousands live inside these tight streets, pressed together by trade, rent, and habit, and the city's mess circulates the way breath does. London Bridge rises ahead, crowded even late, a narrow spine carrying you over black water. You drift south with the flow, towards Southwark, where rooms are cheaper and rules feel looser. The faces change as you cross. Men with coins tucked deep, women measuring strangers the way merchants measure weight. A drunk laughs too loudly and is yanked back by his collar. Somewhere above you, a window opens and slops something down. You flinch, and it misses you by inches. In one low room, a mattress is dragged out and beaten, more to knock out crumbs than anything alive. A blanket is shaken once and folded as if the gesture alone could make it new. A candle gutters, wax runs down the side like sweat. You watch hands trade a coin, touch a latch, touch a cup, touch a body. Everything connects. You tell yourself you will be fine if you are careful. But careful here is a thin shield. The first warning may be a sting when you pass water, or a tenderness you blame on cold. You'll still walk, you'll still work, you'll still try to sleep. And then, without spectacle, the heat inside you will begin to climb, and you'll learn how quickly London turns discomfort into danger, just as you discover how many people have already carried it home. You keep thinking about that rising heat, because it doesn't leave you. The new threat arrives with it. The first sores don't close, and London is built to rub, press, and share. Stay with this, and before the night is done, you'll understand why the cures people trust can empty you faster than the sickness. By daylight, the city looks almost manageable. Mud dries to a pale crust, then turns slick again under boots. Smoke from cook fires sweetens the air for a few steps, and then the old sourness returns. Gutter water, wet wool, crowded breath. You learn to move like everyone else, eyes down, shoulders tight, always stepping around something. The body gives small alarms first. A sting when you pass water. Tenderness you blame on chafed cloth. A faint swelling you can ignore if you keep walking. People around you carry their own quiet discomforts the same way. Faces set, mouths shut, pretending pain is private, even when the streets are shared. In Southwark, movement never stops. Coins change hands, cups change hands. Hands touch latches, blankets, bodies, and then touch food. Rooms are low-ceilinged and damp. Bedding is reused because it must be. Straw is topped up, not replaced. A blanket that warmed one stranger warms the next before it's truly dry. At first, what spreads feels like shame more than danger. People speak in half-words, a burning, a running, a bad humor. Records suggest such complaints were common enough to be scolded from pulpits and whispered in taverns. The fear is not only sickness, it's being marked as the sort of person who brought it in. But the city doesn't keep infections inside one life. A man crosses the bridge late and returns before dawn. Whatever he picked up comes back with him into a room where a wife sleeps close for warmth and a child shares the same blanket. Days later, a pregnant body is asked to endure hunger, cold, and another invisible burden. In a London still weakened by recurring plague years, even a small infection can behave like something much larger. The first time you truly understand, it is not a lecture. It's a smell in a low room with one narrow window. Sharp, spoiled, wrong. Someone shifts on a mattress and winces as if the movement cuts. Their hands hover, careful, protecting a tender place. Nobody speaks. The candle burns down, and the silence does what the sickness does. Spreads. You step back into the lane, into colder air that feels clean only because it hurts your lungs. The sting returns deeper. Sitting becomes difficult. Standing pulls on raw skin. What began as discomfort starts to demand attention. Help is easy to find because fear keeps it funded. A barber surgeon's pole stands out against soot-dark timber, bands bright as a warning. Inside, the room reeks of boiled water and old stains that never quite left the wood. Knives hang from pegs. A basin waits beneath a chair, cloudy from the last rinse. The man who works here speaks with the confidence of a world that cannot be proven wrong. He asks questions that don't require truth. He talks about balance, too much heat, too much wetness, bad humors tracked and turning. He offers a strip of linen, stiff from past use, and a pot of ointment that smells of animal fat and metal. The logistics are blunt. Coin first. If not coin, a favor, a promise, a silence. You take what you're handed because refusing feels like choosing the sickness. The city multiplies answers. An apothecary folds powders into paper squares. A neighbor swears by steaming. Someone insists the rot must be drawn out with heat, or drained with a blade, or weakened by purging. The language comforts because it sounds like control. Then the weather changes, and control breaks. Rain comes hard and steady, not as a brief shower, but as a long insistence. It hammers roofs and finds every crack. Gutters swell. The street becomes a moving film of filth. The Thames rises and pushes back against what the city tries to send away, and waste that normally slides toward the river spreads sideways instead, pooling where people must walk. A boy tries to leap a stream that wasn't there yesterday. He lands short, foot sinking, and he doesn't scream or curse. He just keeps going, leaving a wet trail behind him. The water you trusted barely, turns worse. A well tastes different. A barrel smells faintly of street. You rinse a cup and realize the rinse is only another coating. In this rain, clean becomes a rumor. You try to rest, but fever turns the room tight around you. Sweat chills on your back when you stop moving. Your mouth is dry. The tenderness that began as a sting becomes a hot knot under the skin, swelling, hardening, ready to break open. Now you understand what an ulcer is here. An open door in a city that never stops touching. A man near you decides to trust the accepted method because he has no better choice. He sits in the barber's chair, face pale, hands gripping wood. The blade flashes, and a thin line opens on his arm. Blood fills a bowl, as if relief can be measured in ounces. He sways when he stands and forces a smile, because the room expects gratitude. 2 days later, he is weaker, not stronger, and the sickness has not left him. It has simply found a body with less to spend. For a brief moment, you can still place yourself in space. Your feet are on damp boards. Your back is against timber. Rain taps the shutters like impatient fingers. You are a body trying to stay upright. And then rumors start riding the river traffic, quiet at first, then louder. People speak of a new affliction on the continent, sores and fevers that linger and ruin. The dates blur in mouths that don't keep calendars, but port cities hear things early, and fear needs no proof to spread. Whatever it is, London is already prepared to mishandle it, because it still believes sickness is a problem of balance, not contact. You look at your own hands and realize how often they touch your face, your cup, your clothing, your bedding. The danger isn't only what you caught, it's what you will do next in desperation. Someone will offer you a stronger cure, and the room will nod as if strength is the same as safety. And the price of that cure will be paid before you even feel it. You remember the warning about a stronger cure and its hidden cost. And the new danger is plain. The fever has stopped negotiating with you. Stay with this, and before the next night ends, you'll understand how London's help can empty you while the infection keeps its grip. The heat starts behind your eyes. You blink and the room tilts just a little, like the floor has loosened. Your shirt sticks at the back, then turns icy when you step into the lane. Winter air bites hard enough to feel clean, but it doesn't stay clean. It clings to damp cloth and turns every shiver into a shake. People notice without speaking. A vendor watches your hands tremble as you count coins. A man beside you shifts away, as if sickness might leap. Nobody wants to carry trouble home, and trouble here travels on breath, on cloth, on fingertips. You keep moving because stillness makes the ache louder. What began as a sting has become a hard, hot knot that pulls when you walk. Sitting becomes a careful choice. Standing burns. You tell yourself it will break and drain, and you'll feel relief. Sometimes it opens. Sometimes it only teaches the body a deeper kind of pain. In a cramped shop, a barber surgeon lays out his certainty. A bowl, a strip of linen, a small iron spoon for ointment. He warms a salve over a candle until it shines, then spreads it with the back of the spoon, careful not to waste a smear. It smells of animal fat and sharp metal, like pennies warmed in a fist. He says the corruption must be drawn out, that heat will coax it to the surface. He offers a purge, too, a bitter draft meant to clean you from within. When the swelling won't soften, he changes his voice. A small knife is held to the candle flame until the metal darkens. He wipes it once on his apron, as if that is enough. Someone pins your shoulder. The blade presses where your skin is hottest, and you feel a sharp relief that arrives alongside fear, because whatever comes out does not mean the danger has left. A strip of linen is packed in, pulled out, packed again. The same hands fold the cloth and set it aside for the next person. You swallow because you've run out of better ideas. Your stomach knots. Sweat beads along your hairline. The room's warmth becomes a trap, and when you step back outside, the cold hits your wet skin like a slap. The fever pushes harder at night. It comes in waves, a rush of heat, a shaking chill, then a thin lull that tricks you into hope. Your tongue feels thick, your thoughts slow, like a cartwheel stuck in mud. Someone speaks and you miss half the sentence, then nod anyway, praying it wasn't important. This is how sepsis steals time. Small failures that multiply. You reach for a cup and your fingers don't quite close. You stand and your knees soften. You try to focus on a face and the edges blur. The danger isn't only pain, it's how quickly your body stops obeying you. Night adds its own pressure. A bell marks curfew. Watchmen move through lanes with staves and lanterns, faces hard in the damp. If you lean against a wall too long, they notice. If you sway, they decide what you are. Drunk, vagrant, trouble. You force your legs to keep their rhythm, because being sick in the street can turn into being punished in the street, and cold stone does not care what kind of fever you have. Then you hear another threat through a wall near the bridge. A woman in labor. The room is too small, the air too cold, and fuel too precious to waste. A pot warms water slowly. Cloths are folded and refolded, damp corners pressed where they're needed, then plunged back into the basin. A midwife's fingers check, wipe, check again. When the baby finally arrives, the room exhales. Then the mother's skin stays too hot. By the second day, she shivers under blankets that cannot warm her, and the smell in the room changes in a way no one wants to name. Outside, the city adds pressure where the body is already failing. If a pregnancy sits outside marriage, punishment can arrive with a summons from a church court, a public penance, work lost, lodging lost. Even inside marriage, a sick household bleeds money fast. Bread gets smaller, meat disappears. Hunger makes every wound slower to close and every fever harder to fight. Some try to hide the risk before it shows. Strong women's herbs are traded in small bundles, rue, pennyroyal, things that smell bright and cruel when crushed. A cup is brewed thick enough to taste like bitter green sap. Sometimes it brings cramps and nothing more. Sometimes it brings bleeding that won't stop. And when it goes wrong, asking for help can cost rent, reputation, and the little protection the name still buys. For a few breaths, you can measure your world in plain facts. Your feet are on boards that creak. Your palms are damp. The air is cold enough to sting your nostrils. The river is a steady sound in the distance. You are not a tale told at a tavern. You are a body trying to stay awake. Then you see what hunger does to sickness in the street. A man with hollow cheeks coughs and keeps working because missing a day means missing a meal. A child gnaws a crust, eyes too large in a thin face. London, after plague years, is not empty. It is strained. Many live one bad week away from collapse. In that kind of life, a small wound doesn't heal quickly. It lingers. It opens. It invites. When you finally can't ignore your own fever, the city offers choices that feel like rescue. Bleed to balance. Purge to cleanse. Burn to seal. Smear metal to drive out what you cannot see. None of it is gentle. None of it is clean. The same hands that held coins all day now press cloth to skin and call it care. You will go back for stronger treatment because weakness makes you obedient. First, they will promise relief in a closed room. Then they will start taking something from you that you can't afford to lose. You remember the promise of relief behind a shut door, and the new danger is that relief arrives coated in metal. Stay with this, and before the fever finally breaks, one way or another, you'll understand what London's strongest cures steal from you first. The barber surgeon sends you to a cramped apothecary near the bridge, where the air tastes faintly of pennies and burnt fat. The man behind the counter doesn't ask how you got sick. He asks what you can pay, because in this city, mercy is a transaction. Rumors drift upriver with the barges, an affliction from the continent, sores that linger, fevers that return. In a port city, fear arrives ahead of certainty. The apothecary's answer is a gray paste he calls mercury, quicksilver, because it moves like it's alive. He says it drives corruption out through sweat and spit. People believe him because they can feel sweat. They can count spit. They can't count what's inside them. The logistics are blunt. A small room, a brazier, a pot kept warm until the air itself feels wet. You're told to strip down to cloth that can be spared because damp wool traps the wrong heat. The paste is rubbed where the skin is rawest, then smeared along folds and seams where cloth chafes. The first touch is cold and slick, then it bites, steady, deep, as if the skin is being argued with. The door closes. Air thickens. A candle gutter flickers in the corner. At first, sweating feels like progress. Beads gather on your ribs. Your hairline wets. Your mouth floods, and you taste metal that doesn't belong to food. You tell yourself the taste means the medicine is doing its job. Then the room turns narrow. Your stomach flips. Your legs feel light, as if your bones are losing their grip on the floor. A man beside you wipes his lips again and again, startled by how much saliva he cannot stop. The cure announces itself by making the body leak. You stumble out into cold air, and it slaps your wet skin clean for one hopeful breath. Outside, the river fog bites. London keeps moving. But the knot inside you hasn't let go. It has only changed its mask. By evening, heat returns behind your eyes. Your heart runs at odd moments, as if it's sprinting from something you can't see. You drink from a barrel cup, and the water tastes of wood and street. You chew a heel of bread, and it sits heavy, unwilling to help. When you stand too quickly, the world narrows at the edges, and you grab for a wall before anyone notices. The barber surgeon is ready to take more. He ties a strip of cloth above your elbow until your hand tingles. His thumb finds the vein with practiced certainty. The blade opens you, and a bowl fills with dark warmth. A purge follows, bitter, chalky, hard to keep down. Your belly cramps, your mouth dries. You sweat again, but this time it feels like loss, not release. The sickness inside you doesn't care that you're lighter. It keeps moving, quiet and sure. That's the terror here. You can walk while you're losing. You notice it in others too. Faces fixed, steps measured. Everyone pretending they're fine because weakness attracts the wrong kind of attention. Watchmen don't need a reason to push you along. Landlords don't need a reason to shut a door. Employers don't need a reason to replace you. For a moment, you can anchor yourself in one plain fact. Your breath fogs in the air, and each exhale proves you're still upright. Then the consequences of intimacy surface where the city is most fragile. Inside rooms that cannot afford sickness. A husband returns with a burning he won't confess. A wife grows sore and feverish, and still makes broth because mouths must be fed. A pregnancy begins, not as a soft promise, but as a calculation. How long until work becomes impossible? How many candles can be saved? How many cloths can be dried in air that never truly dries? Birth happens on straw and wool, with basins that cool too fast and hands that have done other work all day. When tearing happens, and it often does, there is no clean edge to press against it. The body is open, and London is always touching. A few days after a hard delivery, a mother may go hot in a way the hearth can't explain. She shivers under blankets that smell faintly of old sweat. Her eyes lose focus. The household begins to whisper, then pray, then quietly decide what can be spared. If the fever climbs, someone is blamed. If someone is blamed, they may vanish. The next birth becomes even lonelier. Across the river in Southwark, bedding turns over with the speed of coins. A sheet is shaken once, folded, and offered again. Straw is topped up. Damp corners are ignored. The network never sleeps, and sickness loves a city that repeats itself. When the mercury is used again, stronger, longer, the apothecary seals the room tighter and warms the paste until the air grows sweet in a wrong way. Your mouth floods. Swallowing feels like work. Your gums ache. Your hands shake. The cure demands obedience, and your body pays in saliva, sweat, and weakness. And still the sores don't close cleanly. Still the fever circles back at dusk. Still your heart races when you lie down, as if sleep is a cliff edge. If you live long enough to notice patterns, you learn the bitter irony London never names. It isn't desire that makes this deadly. It's the city's basics: crowding, foul water, damp bedding, scarce soap, stacked on top of a medicine that mistakes harsh for effective. Without any knowledge of germs, people don't protect openings. They punish them. They bleed. They burn. They poison. They call the suffering proof. You step back into the lane, and the river fog wraps you again. The danger doesn't look like a monster. It looks like a shared cup, a reused cloth, a warm room with a shut door. It looks ordinary. We live in a world where clean water, soap, and antibiotics feel so normal they fade into the background. In 15th century London, they were not missing because people were careless. They were missing because the city couldn't build them yet, and no one understood what they needed. So when you picture these streets, don't picture reckless strangers. Picture exhausted neighbors doing their best with a system that keeps touching them back, through water, through bedding, through work that won't pause for illness. And notice how quickly dignity becomes a luxury when the body fails. A fever isn't only heat. It's lost wages. It's a landlord's impatience. It's the fear of being judged sinful instead of sick. It's a household choosing between bread and a visit to the barber surgeon. Even when people wanted to do the right thing, the city kept handing them the wrong tools. If anything should stay with you, let it be that intimacy is never just two bodies. It's the room, the cloth, the hands, the water, the hunger, the rules that decide whether help arrives or shame does. Sanitation is not comfort, it's survival. And when it's missing, ordinary life becomes a gamble you place every day. If you want more stories like this, history told from the ground, with the dirt and the breath still on it, comment your location and local time, and subscribe for more.